What's going on, everybody? Jack Acello back with another edition of Knicks Latest. Hope everybody had a fantastic weekend and is trying to make the best of a Monday, because who likes Mondays? Quiet weekend, a little bit of a quiet news day. We got one player preview, and we are going to talk more Eastern Conference power rankings. Let's get right to it. Now, we may have mentioned his name once or twice this offseason, but I don't think we ever went fully into detail on him. So I thought we'd talk about him today, and that is Kevin McCullar Jr. Kevin McCullar Jr. was a player on a two-way contract for the Knicks last season and played very nicely, and I thought was a nice part of this young group of Knicks with Kolek, McCullar, Diawara, that Hukporti that they were building, and I think the Knicks should try and find a way to keep him. Now, that could get a little complex. I'll explain that in the end, but let's get into McCullar first. Kevin McCullar was a two-way player for the Knicks. He's going to his age 25 season. He stands at about 6'5", is a shooting guard, small forward combo, has a decent shot, can do a little playmaking, can rebound, is a very good defender, and is a little bit of a spot scorer here and there. He picks his moments. He reminds me a lot of Josh Hart. For the Knicks last season, in the regular season, he only played in about 21 games for about 7 minutes per game and averaged just about 2 points. But he did have some notable performances, two in particular in the regular season that showed this guy can play and this guy can be something. The first one was on December 27th against the Atlanta Hawks on the road, mind you. In this game, Kevin McCullar scored 13 points, 8 boards, 2 assists, 2 steals on, I believe, 4-7 shooting, 3-6 from 3. In 23 minutes was a game high with a game plus minus of +5, and he finished the game for the Knicks as the defensive player of the game, which means he got the hard hat, he got the vest, and he got the Timberlands. That was what the Knicks gave to their defensive player of the game. So he won it for that night. So very strong performance. And then on April 12th, the last game of the season against the Charlotte Hornets, the Knicks pulled all their guys out. They weren't really playing anybody important. And obviously, I understand the game didn't have high stakes. It didn't really matter for us. But the Hornets were a play-in team. They were gearing up. They were figuring stuff out they wanted to do. That game might have mattered for them. I don't remember fully the last end-of-the-day standings for teams that didn't affect the Knicks. I know the game I had my eye on was the Celtics and the Orlando Magic. And, of course, the Magic lost to the Celtics C-list squad. And the Knicks had to end up playing the Atlanta Hawks. So you got to love that. Anyway, back to McCullar. McCullar in that last game of the season scored 14 points, 3 boards in about 25 minutes. So when he's gotten actual minutes, he's gone out there and has produced. Like I said, he was on a two-way deal. He played in 10 G League games last season, averaging about 32 minutes a game. And in those games, he averaged 16.8 points, 6.7 assists, 5.4 rebounds on 47% shooting, on about just under 35% from 3. So he clearly can play this game. He's clearly above a G League level. Also should add in, he averaged 2 steals a game and 1.2 blocks per game in those 10 G League games. So he is clearly capable and better than a G League player. That's just the bottom line. And the Knicks have built a nice young group of third-string players that are young and have upside, and if they got more playing time, would probably be considered legit role players on a lot of other teams. I truly believe that. First off, before I continue with what I was saying, though, the key to this is the whole scenario in itself is that Kevin McCullar cannot sign a two-way deal with the Knicks. He's eligible to sign a two-way contract with another team, but there's an NBA league rule that states you can't sign a two-way contract with the same team for 3 years in a row. So that part of it stinks. But I think you could argue he's honestly earned a standard contract. Now, I am not saying to give him the final roster spot, not to sign a center. I would never say that. So, again, I said this the other day when talking about Julian Reese. If you're in the chat and if you think that I'm saying that Kevin McCullar deserves that final roster spot as it stands, I'm going to call you out. I don't think that. Obviously, the Knicks need a big man. I understand that. But if the Knicks can, for some way, somehow, some form, find a way to trade Pacome Dadier for anything, a second-round pick, I would literally take a second-round pick, top 59 protected, to get rid of Pacome Dadier. If they can find a way to get rid of Dadier, and then they can cut away that $2.98 million salary, you could sign Kevin McCullar to a standard contract. Then, as I was saying before, your third string group of young promising players. You have Tyler Kolek as a point guard, Tyler Nickel as a shooting guard. You could have Kevin McCullar as your sort of three, one of your wings. Mo Diawara is the other. And then with that last roster spot, you sign your big man. That's a nice third string unit of young promising players. And those are the guys that are going to carry the Knicks through the regular season. Obviously, not night in and night out. But I say sense of carry in the sense that they're going to keep the Knicks healthy for when the playoffs come. So that way Brunson isn't overworked. OG's not overworked. Josh Hart's not overworked. Cat's not overworked. You get the picture that I'm painting. The Knicks need these young guys to get them through the regular season. And McCullar could do that. He fit in nicely with Kolek and Diawara last season and Hukporti before we got rid of him. But I think he's a guy that really can fit in and give the Knicks something that they need. He's like Josh Hart. He can give you scoring on one night if you need it. Another night he could be playmaking. It could be rebounding. It could be defense. Whatever you need, he could do that. Defensive rating of 112, I should also add, in those 21 games. So he could defend. He knows the regulars in the rotation. The coaching staff knows him well. I think it just makes sense. I think the Knicks should try and find a way to maneuver it to get Kevin McCullar back in the orange and blue. But what do you think below? Should the Knicks try and dump Dadier, and with that extra roster spot, should they sign Kevin McCullar to a standard contract and bring back one of the defending champions to possibly repeat? Leave your thoughts down below. All right, last thing we're going to talk about today is Eastern Conference Power Rankings. We are up to number 7. To give everybody a quick refresh of what we had so far, we're going from worst to where we currently are. We had number 15, the Chicago Bulls, the Brooklyn Nets, the Milwaukee Bucks, the Washington Wizards, Charlotte Hornets, Orlando Magic, Toronto Raptors, and Boston Celtics. We're now up to number 7. Now, I want to make something clear. At this point on, any team that I'm talking about from here on to the top, I think is capable of reaching the NBA Finals in the Eastern Conference. So, here we go. Number 7, the Miami Heat. The Heat made major headlines this summer when they acquired Giannis Antetokounmpo from the Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis, when healthy, is at worst a top 6 player in the NBA. He's a 2-time league MVP, a former Defensive Player of the Year, Finals MVP, an NBA champion. So there's nothing that he hasn't done in this game. At his best, he's capable of 30 points, 12 rebounds, and close to 7 assists a night, while just dominating down low. So he joins Bam Adebayo, an all-star center big man who's also a Defensive Player of the Year, capable defender, night in and night out. He also made history last season, scoring 83 points. It goes Wilt, Bam, Kobe. So that's how it goes. Bam Adebayo scored 83 last year. How he did it, that's to be judged. That's a matter of opinion. But those two will be a nice all-star dynamic duo in the front court and in the paint. Joining them, they have an interesting squad. They've made some moves to bolster their roster. So they signed Tim Hardaway Jr. to replace Norman Powell. After being bought out, Klay Thompson is going to sign with the Miami Heat. They are rumored to bring in Nick Richards as their backup big man. So they brought in those 3 guys to help round out the rest of their roster that they have. The current players on the Heat to join Giannis and Bam already are Davion Mitchell, Andrew Wiggins. They had Bobby Portis on the bench, Nikola Jovic. They had a nice shooter in Simon Fontecchio. And they have some young guys, Drew Smith, and there's a couple other pieces that, Pat Riley can find that probably can give them value. And obviously, the Heat's biggest strength, they have the best coach in the NBA in Eric Spoelstra. So he is going to have to figure out how to put this whole puzzle together. So you could argue that I have this team a little bit low, but I'm going to explain my thoughts on it. So, the first being this. The Heat, let me start with their strengths. They are a veteran team with a lot of winning and championship experience when it comes to Giannis, Bobby Portis, who was also a part of the deal. He's going to be one of their backup bigs off the bench. So you have Giannis, Bobby Portis, Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins. These guys are championship-proven veterans, and they know how to win. Then you also have just veterans in general. You have a guy like Tim Hardaway Jr. who's been around and has played on contending teams, has played on rebuilding teams. He knows what it takes to win. So they have they have tons of experience. Where I get scared is this. They don't know how to play with each other yet, and Rome wasn't built in a day. It takes time for guys and players and teams to learn how to gel, learn how to play with one another, figure out your system, figure out which plays everybody likes. Chemistry matters, and chemistry takes time. It's very rare you see a team that is built in 1 year win it right away. The only team that I can remember that has done that in the past, I've talked about it, is the 08 Celtics, and they barely did it. It took them 26 out of a maximum of 28 playoff games to win the title. And different era, different time. So that concerns me. This team's spacing also concerns me greatly. They brought in shooters in Hardaway and Thompson. Davion Mitchell can be an elite shooter at times. He's had a couple seasons over 40%. Last year was 39.5. They have him. Andrew Wiggins is streaky, not necessarily a spot up shooter, but he can shoot when it matters. But Giannis and Bam, both being non-shooters. I know Bam has worked on his three-point shot, but I still wouldn't call him an effective shooter. And I'm not necessarily sure how much opposing teams and opposing defenses will respect that. So that's a question mark. So there's a lot of concern when it comes to the spacing. If they don't have enough respectable outside shooting, is the lane going to be clogged for Giannis? Is the lane going to be clogged from Bam? How will their fit on offense work together? So that's a huge question mark for them. And then the biggest question is another one for me. I wouldn't say it's the biggest. Excuse my wording. I don't necessarily think they have enough playmaking. Davion Mitchell is a very nice point guard. He's a very good defender. He can shoot the ball. Last year, he got his true first chance to start and averaged about 6.5 assists in 70 games played. But the Heat weren't that great last year. So I don't really know if he's capable of being a true starting point guard and primary playmaker on a title contending team. I don't know if that's true. So we're going to find out this year, but that's a big question mark. And you could argue Davion Mitchell is more of a combo guard rather than a true point guard. So I still think the Heat may have to make another move and try and find a more of a playmaking first point guard. Again, Davion Mitchell can prove me wrong. I'm not saying he can't, but I don't necessarily know if he's capable of being a starting point guard on a championship winning team. So that's $1 million question. But the Heat are going to be a good team either way. They have a lot of talent. They're going to have the best interior defense in the NBA with Giannis and Bam. It's going to be a nightmare trying to score on those two in the paint. So Karl-Anthony Towns, stick with the three-point shot because that's going to be the best course of action when we play this team. So why do I have them 7? That's the biggest question. So again, I said the strengths, I said their weaknesses, but this is the biggest thing for me. The Heat, to me, have to earn it. This is a team for the last 4 seasons has treated the regular season like an absolute joke when they've done nothing to prove that they can do that. When you're a team like the 2017 Warriors, when you have Steph, Clay, KD, and Draymond, you can coast through the regular season, and then the last 10, 15 games, you can flip a switch, turn it on, and go win the title. This has been a Heat team that, sure, they went on one lucky run as the 8th seed when the East was a little bit weaker. You know, they beat Giannis that season with Milwaukee. He had a back injury. He missed some time in that series. The Knicks were a team that was still finding their way. And then they pulled off a Game 7 win against Boston. Was that? Yeah. They pulled off a Game 7 win against Boston after nearly blowing a 3-0 lead. So they were lucky to be there. They got killed by Denver the following season. But in the last 4 seasons, they've been a play-in team. The last 2 seasons, they've got into the play-in as the 10th seed. They have to go out, treat this regular season like it matters, and honestly, go out and win 50 games. Be a top 4 seed and get home court advantage and give yourself a chance to win. They've treated the regular season like a joke, and you just can't do that. You can't do that. Not in the Eastern Conference that's this competitive. Do I think the Heat are capable of making the NBA Finals? Yes. But do I think in terms of continuity, young legs, and enough shooting, spacing, athleticism, do they have enough of anything? No. They have a top player. They have another all-star, but I need to see that these veterans are going to complement them nicely. So ultimately, I think New York, Philly, Atlanta, Indy, Detroit, Cleveland, I think all those teams are better. So I'm not saying the Heat can't make the finals, but I think it's going to be a challenge for them. So we'll see what they do. We'll see how they look. Where do you think the Miami Heat rank in the Eastern Conference? Leave your thoughts down below. That's all we got for today. We'll have more free agent / trade previews, more power rankings, some more fun segments throughout the rest of this week. Hit that like and subscribe. And as always, guys, go Knicks.